Hey everyone and welcome. This is part 4 of our July paint along, and this is the week where we pull it all together and hopefully finish the painting so that we're happy with it. And a funny thing happened to me while I was this week when in the studio. I'd be looking at the painting when I would walk by, and I would think to myself, what's happening here? And I started to hear something. Alright, and I started to listen, and the painting said to me, Karen, I'm supposed to be misty, but I don't want to be misty. I don't want to be misty. I think I want to be sunny. Why do you have to make me misty? And I stopped and I thought, should I listen to my painting? It's pulling me in a different direction. Whatever I had done so far is not reading as misty. So in order to make it misty, I'm going to have to really push it. I mean, I could do it, but the marks I made and the colors I use and the way I put them down is starting to look more like a sunny day. The painting is telling me something. It wants to go in another direction. The question I have to ask myself now is, should I change my story? Should I change my painting and listen to it? Or should I say, no, painting, I'm not going to listen to you. I am dead set on having this as a misty scene, and I'm going to do everything I can to make it misty. Two choices. What should I do? I think a lot of times we run into trouble because we don't listen to our paintings. They get to a certain point and we start painting and we look at it and it's not going in the original direction. It's not fitting the story we intended. And we get mad or we get frustrated and we're like, this isn't doing, it's not working, I want it misty. And we keep adding pastel and adding layers, maybe brushing things off, and we try so hard to get it back to our original vision. And that's when we tend to overwork a painting, and sometimes those paintings are failures. On the other hand, if we listen to that painting who's trying to tell us something and say, you know what, maybe it would be better if you just made it a sunny painting and stop fighting it. It's going in a different direction. It's okay to let go and listen. So the lesson for today is that I'm going to listen to the painting this time. I want to talk to you about why I think it's not a misty painting and what I'm going to do to make it into hopefully a better painting. Now, for those of you who are like, wait a minute, she was going to paint misty and I want to see misty. I will do a misty, moody, foggy painting demonstration at another time. The lesson for today, the lesson for this whole month is play, experiment, listen to the painting. You're going to learn more that way than if you just try to force something that's not happening. All right, so let's look at the painting here. I put my magic mat on it just so that I could see it without the distraction of the board behind it. And so I always do this towards the end of the painting. And this is where I came and I looked at it and I said, yeah, it's just not misty. I mean, I tried to make a little bit misty here, but I think probably this warm yellow in the background, even though it's in the photo, is just fighting that misty feeling. So what do I need to do? Should I change my story? Yeah, I'm going to change my story. And what I want you to do is look at your painting and not necessarily change your story. If you have a painting that's fitting the story word that you established, go with it. You know, make it into a good painting. But if you're fighting your story word, it doesn't fit, change your story. It's okay. I'm going to say this though. I only change my story one time because if I keep changing it, I'm going to overwork the painting. So right now it's okay to change it, but I wouldn't change it another time without totally redoing it. So what am I going to do with this painting? I went ahead and I wrote down the things that I want to change or adjust. This way I'll stay on track and I won't fix areas that might not need to be fixed. So can you see? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to first spray it with workable fixative. That's going to give me a little bit more tooth so that I can add more layers. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to work on fixing this distant field area. I like the yellow-green, but I'm not sure about how it's melding with what's behind it. So there's a little something's going on there. I probably will bring back some of this distant trees. I'm going to refine all the distant tree lines. I'm going to add light to the foreground bushes because now it's a sunny day. And so I need it to look like there's light on the trees or the bushes. Brighten up the sky. And I want to add a few more vertical elements, grasses in the foreground, just so that I can create a better feeling of depth. And I might add a few sheep, maybe. We'll see. That'll be the last thing I do if I do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on these things. I want to mention one more thing, and that is about having the underpainting showing. There's been some discussion over on our community page about wanting to cover up the underpainting colors or fighting with the underpainting colors. And we have done, I think we did 2 whole months on underpainting. So if you have any concerns about underpainting, I suggest you go revisit those couple of months. But I just want to give this thought. Underpaintings can help set up the painting. If you cover it all up, that's perfectly fine. It helped you get started. If you like to leave colors peeking through, that's perfectly fine as well. There's no right or wrong way to do this with working with underpainting. So don't get frustrated or stressed out if you cover it all up or if you can't cover it all up. Just go with it and it'll all work out. All right. I'm going to just paint for a little bit and then I'll come back, you watch me, and then I'll come back and talk about what I did. If you're painting along with me, I'm going to just try to remind myself to tell you guys to pause whenever you need to pause the video to work on your painting and then come back and watch me finish. So first thing I'm going to do is brighten up the sky. Turn this around. Oh, first thing I wanted to do was spray the workable fixative. Let me do that. Just a quick light coat. Now I'm going to brighten up the sky. So I'm going to use a more intense blue to give me that sunny day feeling. I still like the feeling of the clouds in the sky. So I'm not going to cover all that up, but I just want to brighten it up. Add a little bit of that warm yellow to the horizon. Now, if you don't want the underpainting to show through, you could blend it at this point. If I ever blend a sky, I do it very lightly with my pinky finger and just lightly knit the layers together. If you press too hard, you're going to crush the crystals in the pastel and it'll make it dull. I have this like linear mark that's happening here in my sky that I need to get rid of. And I think I'll make a few wispy clouds, and wispies are really easy. You just take your pale yellow pastel and very lightly add a light layer of color, and that gives you a wispy feeling to your sky. So now I have a much brighter, sunnier day. I also wanted to work on refining the distant tree lines. So I'm going to bring these back. But I'm going to use a cool, dull blue. Well, blue is cool, but it's a cooler, duller gray blue for those distant trees. Okay. I also wanted to refine the trees kind of in the middle. I'm going to use a warmer or a brighter green. I want to add another line of trees. I think I want to break up this field right in here. Maybe make another section. But that's too linear. What I'm doing now is I'm working through things kind of as I go. So a lot of times when you're in this stage of a painting, things don't work out the way you think. So you take out your brush and you brush out that offending area and start over. So I want to divide this field into better arrangement of shapes. So let's just go in and add another tree line right in here. And now I can come in with green for this distant field. And what about this side? Let's add another green. These are lighter green. This one's a lighter green because it's further back. I eliminated that bright yellow green. And already I have a better feeling of depth. You know, you can use a bright warm color in the distance, but it doesn't always work out. There's usually have to make some changes, and it just was too bright back there. But what I am going to do is I'm going to add it. Where should I add it? Maybe to this section, because I liked it. It just wasn't working way back there. That's better. All right, now what do I have to do? One thing I really liked, the underpainting peeking through like it was crops or something. So I do want to keep that. I feel like I need to refine these tree shapes just a little bit more. Have a little variety of shapes and sizes. A little bit darker. Okay. I like what's happening in this section, so I'm not going to change it too much other than refine it just a little bit. So I'm just going in and refining it. I'm not making major adjustments because I like what was happening there. Alright, now I have to work on this tree line. This is getting a little bit more detail because it's closer to us. Oh, an important thing that I have to do now, because I changed this and I made it into a sunny day. What do I need to do? I need to figure out where the sun is coming from. That's going to help me determine what side of the trees are going to have a feeling of light on them. So if I say the sun is coming, and I'm changing, I'm not going by what's happening in the photo, although if I look at the photo I can see that the top left side of these tree shapes are illuminated a little bit. So that's what I'm going to go with. But the sunlight is coming from the top left. I'm going to just refine these tree shapes a little bit more. I really need to think about what I want to do in this section. What if I used this green, a warmer green, pull it down towards the tree shape, leave the green that's there already in place so that it also peeks through those layers. Start to carve these foreground tree shapes a little bit to make more interesting silhouettes. I think I'm going to use a variety. I'm going to use both of those greens, mix them together. That makes it a little more interesting than just one flat shape of green. Alright, let's work on these foreground trees. I'm going to add a little bit of violet in them. One thing I like to say is when in doubt, use purple. But there's a method to that madness, because if you use a little bit of orange or red or warm color and a little bit of violet in a mass of greens, you end up with something a little bit more interesting. So why don't I, while I'm thinking about it, throw just a little bit of red in with the violet. Remember, we had that red violet in the initial underpainting, but then that was when it was moody, and now we're trying to make it sunny, so I think we need to add a little bit more warmth without going crazy. So I'm going to add a little bit of a warmer orangey red. And I think while I'm at it, I'm going to come back and, while I like the lines in this part of the painting, I want to have them a little bit more subtle. So I'm going to cover them up lightly. That way they're not jumping out like, look at me, I'm pink. I want to try to get rid of the pink. Alright, so now we're going to create the sunlit part of these tree shapes. So let's just put a little bit of warm green in there. And let's put actually I'm going to spray the trees one more time with some workable fixative. Very lightly. Gotta let it dry for just a minute. Why am I doing this? Because it fixes that dark area in place, and when I go over it with the pastel, it skips over that dark and helps create the form of these bushes or tree shapes by having the dark bits in place. A little bit warmer up in this area. Now also, I've not done any little teeny tiny mark making yet. It's all been big shapes with the side of my pastel. But now it is time to refine my marks just a little bit more. And I only want to refine my marks where I want the viewer to look. That's important. So I'm going to take this distant field color and carve into the trees just a little bit better because I got lost with it. And then I'm going to take a green and I'm going to paint in a few leaf shapes. The idea being that if the viewer looks and sees a few leaf shapes on the edges of the bushes or trees, then their eye can fill in the rest and say, oh, okay, I see leaves. Those must be trees or those must be bushes. So suggest a few pieces, a few marks, and let the viewer fill in the rest. That's always a good way to go. I need to carve this and make this a little bit more interesting. This has to be a little bit darker. It got a little bit too light. This shape is not interesting. So what I'm doing at this stage is I'm going in and I'm just taking my time to make these small adjustments. And when I get this far in a painting, what I really need to remind myself is make a few marks, step back, evaluate, make a few more marks, step back and evaluate. Because if I don't do that and if I just keep painting, then chances are I'm going to do too much. I'm going to overwork it and I'm going to ruin any freshness that I have. So when you get to this part of the painting, slow down, stop, allow yourself to make like 3 marks. Look at them, step back. If it's working, make 3 more marks until you're satisfied.
Pause the video.
What?
Pause the video.
Yes. Michael's reminded me, and I was ready to say that if you're painting along, be sure to pause the video when you're making these small adjustments. It's a good time to pause the video and look at your own painting to make those small adjustments. I don't know how many of you actually paint along or just watch the video and then paint. I'd be interested in finding out. That would help me with the timing of these videos. So go ahead and let me know in the comments. Do you paint along? So are you pausing the video so that you can paint along, or are you watching it till the end and then painting? Just trying to get the timing good for everybody. And then I get lost in the painting and forget to tell you to pause the video. So I want to make sure that it's working for you. All right, let's evaluate. Where are we right now? We have fields that look like they're going back into the distance. I've created a variety in the direction of my marks to help create the feeling of those hills. If I had all my marks going in one direction, it would look very flat. I have the most detail up in the foreground, so that is working in that to create depth. We have the warmest colors, most detail, darkest darks in the foreground, and as we go back, those things change ever so slightly. So I thought about adding sheep to the painting just to give it a sense of place. So let's see if that's going to work Now, if I put them here, they'd have to be bigger. If I put them back here, they would just have to be dots. What if we put a few here and a few back there? I'm going to start and use a kind of a, oops. I'm not looking at pictures. I just know from the experience of seeing the sheep there that they were just shapes. So I'm starting with a cool dull color. This is that periwinkle violet blue. These are going to be bigger. If I'm going to put a few in the background, they're going to be much smaller, right? So things get smaller as they go into the distance. Now, the sheep are not purple. They have some sunlight hitting their fleece. So we'll go ahead with the pale yellow and give a little sunlight. Hit them with sunlight. These are just marks with pastel, but I'm pressing quite hard. What if you put a sheep in there and it's not in a good place or you don't like it? Just take out your brush, brush it away, brush it off. So never be afraid to put things in on the end. There, so those are smaller, those are bigger. They need some legs. So I'm going to go ahead and get one of my new pastels. Let's get that spruce blue. And just make a few marks to give them a little black face, some hints of some legs. Again, they're just shapes. Those are so far back you wouldn't even see it, okay? Maybe they need to be grounded a little bit, so we'll just kind of create some dark under where they're standing, just so they're grounded just a little bit. And one other thing that I said I was going to do, I was going to add some upright elements, some grassy type mark. So I'm just taking in with the new pastel and coming in and just adding a few blades of grass in the foreground, just again to help increase that feeling of depth in the painting. So I'm going to stop right now. I think that what I want you to take away from today's video is listen to your painting. Have fun with your painting. Don't force it into being something it doesn't want to be. And chances are your painting doesn't want to be what my painting is, and I want you to embrace your own painting, listen to it, and have fun with it. So I hope you've enjoyed this series, and next month we're going to focus on foregrounds, and I'm really excited about foregrounds and flowers, wildflowers. So we'll see you next month.